This is the largest fourth quarter comeback in your career. How did you do it?
Keep the main thing, keep executing. The game is not ever over until it's double zeros.
Well, actually, Bron and Sedano, we did a story yesterday on a game that was at double zeros. 8 seconds later, a technical foul was assessed to a high school player for hanging on the rim in celebration. It was complete villainy. But I digress. What LeBron and the Lakers did to the Clippers last night. Let's go around the horn.
Unbelievable.
LeBron with a little post-game clarity, Tony.
Oh, there it is. As you heard from George Sedano and LeBron right there, it was the Lakers coming back from 21 down, the biggest fourth quarter comeback of LeBron's career. And of course, doing it against the Clippers. I don't need to say any more around the horn to Bill Plaschke what to take away.
It was LeBron James Appreciation Night. It was all about the most timeless athlete we've ever seen. He's 39 years old, and this is the biggest Laker comeback in 21 years. He's 39 years old, and he scores or assists on 30 of the 39 points in the fourth quarter comeback. He's 39 years old, and he has 5 threes, 4 assists, and he makes a defensive play in the game on Kawhi Leonard at the end. LeBron James is unbelievable. That's the only takeaway from this game. LeBron James is unbelievable.
The only takeaway. There's no takeaway for the Clippers here. Israel, let me ask you, was this more about LeBron or the Clippers?
Yeah, no, there was some takeaway for the Clippers. If I was a Clippers fan, I'd have trouble sleeping last night after watching what it would look like when James Harden is manning your team down the stretch without Paul George, and you have a lot of turnovers, and you have a team coming back against you in what seemed like a Lakers home game was technically a Clippers home game. Look, I do think that the Clippers would have obviously benefited from having Paul George, and then maybe James Harden doesn't have to do all that late in the fourth quarter. But this is really more about 39, I believe he is, year old LeBron James, who is 3-0 against the Clippers this year, and this sort of is what gives Lakers fans hope. Just get me in, because the games that matter the most, he seems to be able more often to put those games together. So just get me into the playoffs. I can potentially beat one of these young and up-and-coming teams because that guy has that in him for 4 out of 7 games.
Tinsley, was this more about the Lakers or Clippers to you?
This is about the Lakers, and this is how you evict somebody out your building. But Anthony Davis said it best last night. Sometimes you just got to sit back and say, wow, this guy is third in the league in fourth quarter points per game. This was his 78th time having at least 15 points in the fourth quarter, the most ever since that stat has been tracked. And the Lakers' last 12 field goals, Tony, peep this. LeBron 3, LeBron 3, LeBron 3, Bron assist to D'Lo, Bron 2, Bron 3, Bron 2, Bron 3, Rui 3, Rui 2, and LeBron assists to D'Lo and Cam. Jay-Z was sitting courtside last night, so to quote him, there's never been someone this good for this long, and quite honestly, there never will be again.
And Pablo Torre, more about the Lakers or Clippers?
To me, it's about the Clippers, Tony, simply because the Lakers keep doing this to them in this building, but in general, the Lakers this season have already come back from 19 down against the Clippers. So they've seen it happen not so long ago, a couple months ago, actually, in November. And so the fact is, this haunted house that the Clippers are finally evacuating, it's time. It's time to just give up the idea that they were ever going to overshadow the Lakers in any way inside of that structure. Now they can finally make peace with the fact that, yes, maybe they don't have to go home, but they also can't stay there, which is the way it's always been.
Bill Plaschke, that was the horn, but you told me these Clippers were the best team in the NBA not too many shows ago. Please, on what you saw from the Clippers last night.
I saw a team without Paul George, without Zubac. They missed 2 of their 5 players, 2 of their key players. I don't take much out of this for the Clippers. They're going to be fine.
Justin Tinsley, you told me not too long ago on this show the Clippers were the best team in the NBA. What happened? You guys conveniently forget what you said 1 or 2 shows
Tony,
ago.
Man, why are you bringing up old stuff, man? Come on now.
Tony, injuries.
We've been horned. We'll move on. Football now. Washington Commanders, number 2 pick in the draft, and a new owner's first full season with the team. You could say, hey, T-Bone, that's 2 different stories. Not if you combine it. Let's go. Washington interviewing 6 quarterback prospects. Who they exactly interviewed, we don't know. But what's been reported is new owner Josh Harris was in the room, sat in on the interviews. Israel, how do you consider that? And Washington at number 2 making this pick.
Well, we just talked about the Clippers and their fans maybe having PTSD for some failures. Well, Washington Commanders fans definitely have PTSD from a meddlesome owner. You might remember his name, Daniel Snyder. And so when you hear the idea of being involved in quarterback interviews, while yes, it is probably the most important hire they're going to make, certainly the most important hire initially under his watch, Harris's watch. And so, yes, it would be interesting to sort of understand the process, understand your decision makers' process. And according to the reports, he's not really asking questions. He's just consuming information here. And I think that makes the most sense to do that way. You don't just want to trust in how your decision makers make these decisions. But I understand the fear in a lot of Commanders fans is, hey, keep your hands off, let the football people do the football things. And this first sign is not a good one if that's what you want from your owner.
Justin Sinsley, how do you read the owner sitting in and observing interviews?
Look, I don't disagree with Pablo, but that man invested $6 billion. He's got the right to at least sit in the room and listen.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's got the right to sit in the room and listen.
Go ahead, agree with Pablo, he says.
No, I mean, I agree with Pablo probably, but I definitely agree with Izzy. But he's got the right to sit in there. But this is really about one thing. Everybody saw what the Houston Texans did last year with C.J. Stroud, and if there's any franchise in the NFL that could use that type of boost, it's the Washington Commanders, and they're praying whoever they pick number 2 overall, they can have a similar trajectory that the Texans did last year.
Yeah, I agree with Justin there, actually. I also agree with myself. I disagree with Izzy. Izzy was clearly subtweeting me. Izzy was talking about the process and trust, and I get it. Josh Harris is also the owner of the Sixers. So do I trust Josh Harris? Not as much as you might if you weren't experienced in the ways that he's run that basketball team. But, Tony, this question to me is an age-old question about restaurants. A restaurant gets shut down for the first time because of food poisoning. They reopen. Do you trust that restaurant to be the cleanest restaurant, or do you trust them to still be haunted by the regime before, right?
Question?
So for me, I don't believe that the Washington Commanders have turned over a new leaf yet. I believe them to be a restaurant plagued by bacteria that's still been there for a very long time.
I don't know where we went.
I think something.
Did you have a tough night last night? Little crab rangoon that didn't sit well?
I no longer agree with Pablo.
Things of that nature. Flashkey, please get us back to this. A new owner sitting in on quarterback interviews, observing. Reports are not actually putting his input out there, but observing. Is that okay or not okay?
Not good, not okay. And Justin, you mentioned C.J. Stroud. Well, he might be playing for in Carolina if the owner there, David Tepper, didn't make the decision to take Bryce Young. He got involved in the Bryce Young decision. He shouldn't have. This is a big decision, and you can't choose a quarterback off an interview. Harris should stay away from the draft picks, stay away from the football side of it. Just run the business.
And that business evidently is a restaurant. We'll move on. One more story here, the story that the New York Jets believe Mecole Hardman leaked game plans to opposing teams. This is a question mark I'm putting at the end of that headline. Sauce Gardner, we ain't going to talk about how our offensive game plan got leaked versus the Eagles. Oh, we will, Sauce, don't worry. Here's how SNY reported Hardman, frustrated by his lack of usage, leaked game plans to the opposition as implied by several players. The sources are believing it could be true. Not just the Eagles game, but also versus KC. Pablo Torre, big deal, little deal, or no deal whatsoever?
This feels like a big deal to me. I've been saying on this show how bizarre it is that the Eagles, in fact, lost to the Jets. Well, now we have an explanation. How did the Jets play the Chiefs to a 3-point loss? Now we have an explanation. And now we have an explanation for why Mecole Hardman may not be the most sought-after player in the NFL for the rest of his career, because he's not that good and he does stuff like this. For those reasons, yeah, it seems like
But
a
I'm
pretty big deal.
confused. If the game plans were leaked versus Philadelphia and versus Kansas City, and those happened to be the games the Jets played about as well as they did all season, then the leak was a good thing for the team? Hey, you lost me there. Plashke, go ahead.
The NFL needs to look into this. Hardman's a guy that quit on the Jets, refused to return punts, wouldn't go on the field. I wouldn't put anything past him. And when there's left smoke, there was fire. The NFL needs to look at Hardman. And also, the NFL needs to look at Kansas City and look at Philadelphia and look at who took if the game plans were leaked, who accepted those leaked game plans. This is a big deal, Tony.
Would it be illegal to accept a leaked game plan in your mind? That's interesting. Israel Gutierrez?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Where are you on this?
I don't think it's a huge deal. I think it's just more of just a single situation here. But you look at Mecole Hardman. He went from a franchise that won 2 Super Bowls with him on the team to a franchise with the Jets where things were supposed to be turning around, but they weren't, and they've been regularly a joke of the NFL. So he kind of comes from a silver spoon situation, sort of entitled, and comes to this team and says, wait a second, you think I can't help you after me winning Super Bowls with these Chiefs? Send me back over there. That's all I've really known. That's all I want to go back to. And he found a way to sort of stick it to his former team, if you will, of the Jets. And so to me, it's an individual sort of going a little too far. I don't think too many people are going to follow suit here.
Inslee.
Yeah, if this actually happened, I think it's a huge betrayal because we understand how hard jobs are to get in the NFL. And if you're leaking game plans, you're putting people's jobs in jeopardy. But on another note, I look at the Eagles. Nick Sirianni, you had a horrible collapse to the end of the season. You mean to tell me you couldn't beat the Jets?
With their game plan?
May or may not have had their game plans? You can't even allegedly cheat, right?
Pablo, let me bring you back in here.
Yeah, I guess I should admit that in my mind, it made more sense. But now that I hear it back, the Jets are so bad.
Just claim food poisoning, I think, from the restaurant that you were.
I no longer agree with Pablo for the record.
All right, we'll take a break here. Buy or sell next. The magnificence and mania around Caitlin Clark. One of the other great things about this run, the history lessons. So we know she passed Brittany Griner, Jackie Stiles, Kelsey Plum this year. And you remember those NCAA marks. But now you get to learn about Lynette Woodard in the pre-NCAA days and her numbers for Kansas. Woodard, a Hall of Famer, a Harlem Globetrotter. Her prime years playing in Italy and Japan. Her last years playing in the WNBA, which means this is not ancient history. A pioneer who set the stage for the boon of today's game. And as Clark passed her last night, Iowa coach Lisa Bluder, tonight is the night of the real record. For some reason, the NCAA doesn't want to recognize that basketball was played prior to 1982. Bluder going on to say that hurts the rest of us that were playing at that time. Bill Plaschke, what do you buy? What do you sell from last night?
Yeah, I'm selling the NCAA, and the way they've treated this is just terrible. But I'm buying that Caitlin Clark, the more I watch her, she keeps shooting from farther and farther away. She shoots from mid-court almost every time, and yet she's a great shooter. And she's not a gunner. She made more than half her three-pointers last night. Pete Maravich, she's going to pass Pete Maravich on Sunday. Pete Maravich averaged 38 shots a game. Caitlin Clark has never taken 38 shots in any game in her career.
The Maravich record set in 3 full seasons with no three-point line. Gutierrez, what did you buy? What did you sell from last night?
I'm buying the idea of sort of bringing in the history of the game with all this attention on women's basketball right now. Go ahead and have Caitlin Clark and Lynette Woodard sort of get in a room together and have maybe a televised discussion of just their shared experiences because they're the only two who have done this. And I think that would be really cool and just really intriguing. I also find the Pete Maravich angle really cool because she said even when she was in high school, Caitlin Clark, that people would tell her, hey, you've got to go to YouTube and watch this guy's clips. And 20, 30 years from now, there's going to be people saying that about Caitlin.
Tinsley, you take away from last night?
Yeah, I honestly have to agree with Izzy. Izzy for real this time because I love the deep sense of praise she showed Lynette Woodard, especially coming off the heels of all the conversations around the Cheryl Swoops conversation. She showed a deep respect for her, and I think it's beautiful to see, especially in such a generationally tense sport that is basketball.
Pablo Torre.
Yeah, the Maravich thing on that, like the biggest parallel to me is that Caitlin Clark is one of the greatest showmen, show people. The idea that the stage gets bigger, she gets greater, that is incredible. So that Woodard thing, though, it just reminds me, like, what is the NCAA really doing these days? You know, they seem to be trying to draw lines around stuff to prove that we matter. And this is just one of those ways in which they get in the way of their own history, the sports history, which is the entire contrary aspect of what the NCAA is supposed to do.
Well, they have to make an admission. It wasn't part of their history because they were not accepting of the women's basketball at that time. It's the AIAW. And then there's the NAIA with some other names. Miriam Walker Samuels. Grace Beyer is playing right now for health sciences and pharmacy. She chose that school because she wants to be a pharmacist. She's ahead in the numbers. And then Pearl Moore, of course, we've talked about her over the last couple weeks. This is a history lesson. Enjoy it. We'll move on. Ball night, Chet Holmgren versus Victor Wembanyama, round 3. It's been a split fight. Head-to-head, with OKC winning both matchups before it. Rookie of the Year race. I don't mean to bring up old shows. Justin Tinsley, Bill Plaschke, you told me not to do that, but I heard people picking Holmgren as Rookie of the Year at one point this season. Wembanyama has turned the tide. He's the betting favorite now. What are you buying tonight in the matchup, Israel?
So there's a finals rematch tonight, and that's not the game we're talking about. Okay, fine. Look, I'm going to go ahead and follow LeBron James's lead here and make the thing about the thing. Victor Wembanyama is the only rookie here. Okay, I understand the rules. I understand what they're talking about. Chet didn't play last year. That's the one thing that's just going to lean me toward Victor Wembanyama. I think it's crazy impressive what Chet's doing on a contending team, but Vic's a rookie.
Well, there we go. Let's make that the argument then. Holmgren having been on the roster last year but not playing because of injury and now playing this year. Is he available for Rookie of the Year for you, Tinsley, or is it Wembanyama?
To me, it's Wembanyama, but they aren't just two great rookies. They're the top two in the league in blocks per game, and they're tied in fourth in defensive rating. So this is going to be a great game. I would vote for Wemby, but I wouldn't be shocked if this ended up like 94 and 99, where they split the Rookie of the Year.
Pablo Torre?
I think that's a pretty NCAA take of Izzy, though, to say, wait a minute, he's technically not a freshman, he's not a rookie because he was, of course, on the bench, not playing at all because he got hurt. To me, it doesn't matter, Tony. Chet Holmgren, I want to shout him out simply because he's kind of just like the Salieri to Wembanyama's Mozart. He's always going to be the other guy. And I just want to acknowledge he's having an amazing season right on par with him, even if Wemby's going to win this thing, and probably should.
Pablo, Izzy's right. I'm sorry. He is not a rookie. Holmgren's not a rookie. You can't say you're a rookie if you've had access to an NBA facility, access to NBA coaching, access to NBA training, access to NBA lifestyle for a year. He's not a rookie. It's not fair. Wembanyama should win the award going away.
We've heard that argument before, and we've heard it again this year. Ralph Sampson was another NBA great player who made that argument that Holmgren shouldn't be available for the award. Look at the scores. That was a quick horn there. Flasky Gutierrez advancing. Tinsley, Torre.
All right.
Pablo, did you leak your game plan? And are you going to PTI next? We'll be back. Showdown. College football playoff. 12 teams for as far back as we can remember, considering expanding to 14 teams in 2026. A deadline set for 2 weeks from now to figure it all out. Israel, is 14, not 12, the right number to you?
Well, the fact that they went from 12 to 14 so quickly, I think, makes sense that it is the right number. But I think the fluidity of all these conference situations keeps everything fluid. I think you don't know if it's going to be the right handout of teams after 1 year or 2 years because the SEC might be a mega power conference.
Thank you, Bill.
That's a very fluid answer, Izzy. Here's a solid answer. It's a great idea. The NFL has 14 teams. Let college football have 14 teams and no more conference championships.
No more conference championships, you say? Because
I hate those. Do it.
Because they're meaningless, or because it's not worth the effort?
Because they're meaningless. Because they're routes.
I'll let it sit. The fluidity is fluid, says. The water is also wet, Israel. We'll move on. Dodgers every day, another star story. Ohtani's spring debut at the home run. Yamamoto's spring debut had 2 great innings. And Ohtani, his news of the night, that he got married this offseason, Bill. What's the biggest spring reveal?
My biggest reveal is I was there for Ohtani's home run, so for me, that's the biggest reveal. That he's coming back from his elbow surgery, that he looks great, and then he had the gumption to hit a home run with 2 strikes, 2 outs, 5th inning of a game nobody cares about.
They sent Bill out there, all of international media is out there, and yet Shohei Ohtani somehow keeps it under wraps that he's about to get married. That's clearly the biggest news.
Yeah, where was that scoop?
I'm a husband.
Where were you on that front?
I don't cover players' marriages.
Showdown 3.
Do you remember the call with Brian, you and I, when we were thinking about when Riley wanted to trade to bring you to Miami?
Absolutely.
And somebody said, well, who gonna wear number 3? Silence.
D wanted to sacrifice everything else. He didn't want to sacrifice his damn number.
Chris Paul on Dwayne Wade's podcast, The Why with Dwayne Wade. Israel, do you honestly believe there was a banana boat dynasty in the making, Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James, but it got short-circuited because of who would wear the number 3?
I think it got short-circuited because of the number 3, but not because of a jersey number. They said to themselves, 3 primary ball handlers, never going to work. Go get me Chris Bosh. You're out of here, Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. I think they all said to themselves, they're sacrificing so much, they aren't going to give up. The numbers are going to be the last thing to go. They want to protect the number, especially CP3. That sounds just like him.
I'm not buying that. I think it's a funny joke. This trade would have been shut down for basketball reasons, potentially as well. Israel will give you the point, but there's time for one more showdown. This is going to decide our game because I want to do some of the interviews we're seeing at the combine. There's 2 of them, so we're going to combine it. Illinois tight end Tip Ryman. Have you ever seen a baby pigeon? How do you know that power lines aren't pigeon recharging stations, okay? So he is on team birds are not real. That little moment is in. But how about this one? Texas Tech Tyler Owens, where he says he doesn't believe in space.
I don't believe in space. I'm like, I'm very religious, so I think like we're in this room right now. I believe there's like other planets and stuff like that. I don't know.
Man, the hard-hitting questions at the combine. No comment on either, but Bill, for you, do you have more questions about birds or space?
I have seen the moon. I have seen stars. I've never seen a baby pigeon. Have you ever seen one, Tony? You ever seen one, Izzy? I've never seen one.
They're called eggs.
I agree with him.
They're called eggs. Go ahead, Israel.
I have no interest in space. I don't plan on going out there, but I'm deathly afraid of birds. I do believe them to be recharging stations on the poles. The way they fly in unison, I have no idea how they do that. They are way smarter than they give off.
What are we doing?
I've never seen a baby pigeon.
Your 2 answers should actually get you knocked out of the show, but if you combine it, we'll give Israel the FaceTime.
Oh, that doesn't make any sense.
Thank you, Tony. So yesterday, the Chicago Bulls point guard Javon Carter had a play where he was at the rim all by himself and absolutely passed up a wide open layup. And I kind of want to ask Pablo here in the waning seconds of the show if he is now the biggest Javon Carter fan because famously or infamously, Ben Simmons was the guy who passed up a wide open layup and he got shipped out of Philadelphia for that. So are we giving Javon Carter a break or are we going back and saying Ben Simmons deserves it?
Pablo's got PTI to do. Pablo, run out of your chair right now and get back in your chair.
How did I get dragged into this?
Hey, why didn't you do the finals rematch if it's such an important game, Israel?
Analytics.
I could have used the